In this clip, we'll talk about the additional droplets of the particle system. So till now we have talked about the various methods and the techniques how to create the effect of a dripping. So, the water dripping effect. We have used n particles along with some, important expressions to create an effect of a dripping. Now let's talk about the droplet effect. So this is a very simple and straightforward thing. So let me just do one thing first. Let me just, disable the n particles, all right, for a moment. And if you play the timer, you can see as such nothing is going, no problem. Now we need to select this window mesh, and for the droplets we can simply emit the particles by using the type, emitting from the surface. We can go inside the particles menu. Here we have the emit from the object, and we like to go with the nucleus 2 because we make the interactions of n particle 2 with the n particle 3, that is the the droplet particles. All right, and this time, yes, I'm giving fairly a high value of the rate. So 4500 is quite good with no speed at all. So hit the option create, and once you play the timer, you can see particles are just started falling because of the default gravity we have, and every time we need to close this, no problem. And let's also disable the gravity as well as change the shading type to the blobby, I should say. All right, no problem. And let's say we can also dip down the overall size of the particles to maybe 0 0.1, and we can also give some randomness inside the radius of the particles, and which will definitely take a look a little later. So as if for now we'll keep the radius to 0 0.1. Now with this, we are almost done with this effect, because for the droplet we just simply want the particles to appear, and then they should get diminish, maybe due to their shorter amount of the lifespan, or maybe due to the bigger droplets falling upon them. So one important thing is we need to consider the lifespan. So we give a random range to maybe, let's say, 3 is to the 1, so the particle should die between 2 to the 4, all right, seconds. And now if you play the timeline, we have an effect like this. All right, so particles are simply dying as well as they are getting regenerated. All right, and this is the whole process is pretty much random, no problem. So now let's convert the existing particles into the polygons, n particle 3 into the polygons. Let's do one thing. Let's see how we can interact with the n particle 2, because the most important thing is that we just forgot to change the collision layer of n particle 3 from 0 to the 1. All right, because the n particle 2 is having a collision layer of 0, so n particle 3 we are required to give a value of 1, so that n particle 2 can simply deflect or offset the existing n particle 3, which will come in its path. So the n particle 3 is now given with the collision layer 1. All right, now select the n particle 2, and let's say make sure we can just simply hide this polysphere, because now I want to enable the n particle 2, and this is already enabled right now. So let's do one thing. Let's go inside the object display and turn down the intermediate display option. So get rid of this, no problem. Now if we play the timeline, we have something like this, very nice, and you can see these droplets are simply offsetting the existing n particle 3. All right, now this is very nice. Let me play this back, no problem. All right, so now let's do one thing. Let's again go back, and let's disable the n particle, or let's do one thing. Let's make the intermediate object. All right, and let's say we still disable the n particle 2. Now select the n particle 3 and play the time slider. Now go inside the modify and convert the n particle to the polygons. So you can see that most of them have actually gone because of the limited resolutions we have. So we can go inside the output mesh. Over here we have, and yes, definitely the mesh triangle size is way too much less, way too much big. So the value is 0.5 is way too much high. So let's bring it to the 0.1, and let's also increase the max triangle resolutions to maybe 300. All right, and I think so still particles are not appearing. This is because of the threshold we have. Let's put this thing to 0, and let's do one thing. Let's also play the timeline. Yes, now the particles have just started appearing, and I think so the overall size of the particle is way too much high. So let's do one thing. If we increase the threshold to 0.25, and they all just gone, 0.1, okay, they're still there. They are. So with the value of 0.1, I think so it's quite sufficient. We just want them in a very tiny amount. And let's do one thing. Let's also increase the max triangle resolutions to maybe, let's say, 400. All right, and this will really affect the performance of your scene, so you guys need to be very, very careful. If in case you want to further dip down the mesh triangle size, let's say 0.075, then this will certainly increase the particle counts, but on the cost of your FPS, or the overall performance of your system will definitely get affected. So let's say we have these existing values quite good. We even can further dip it down to maybe 0.050. All right, and I think so now it's taking a little bit more time to refresh itself. All right, so just deselect the particles, press Alt D, and now if I just play the timeline, let's see what we have. And I think so the performance is way too much slow. All right, so I just even can't show you in the existing play, in the existing time slider. So let's do one thing. Let's bring it back to the 0.1 as if for now, and bring the threshold to 0. Let's also decrease the blobby radius to maybe 0.5, maybe 0.1, 0.25, let's say, and that's fine. Okay, not an issue. And let's also decrease the max resolution to 350, and mesh smoothing iterations to, let's say, 3. Okay, no problem. And now if I play the timeline, what do we have? Still the particle system is slow, but I think so it's quite manageable, not a problem. So these were the important steps we have to get the droplet effects, and since we have already seen the existing particles and particle 2 affecting and displacing the end particle 3 or the droplet particles. All right, now that's all for this clip. Now let's move to the next clip where we talk about the rendering setup of our effect.